Hello there, my friends. Gern Blanston on the podcast. How are you today, Gern?
Doing very well, thank you.
It's great. I'm
Happy to be
Pittsburgh
here.
Pat, and we're going to be talking about Star Wars Andor. Boy, it's been a long time since we've done one of these, but what a great topic, huh?
Yeah, well, it certainly generated a lot of conversation. I paid a lot of attention to it. It was getting so much online buzz. Definitely turned out to be different than the other Disney-sponsored Star Wars fair.
Yeah, there's it's funny because at first I was going to say, oh, I have a clever statement. There's no kids in this, but there are. We see Andor as a young man with his sister. That's been kind of drilled into our heads that's going to be an important plot point, him finding his sister. But spoiler alert, and there are going to be spoilers in this for those who are watching. He doesn't find his sister. 12 episodes.
Yeah.
I guess this could be a several season arc or something like that. So
I suppose. I mean, the way they conducted this series and the way they finished it off, they left plenty of room for additional backstory before you get to the Rogue One story.
yeah, the thing that I find interesting. So okay, well, that's right off the bat. Right off the bat, they tell us that it's 5 BBY, right? So 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, right? And Rogue One takes place 0 BBY. It takes place during the same year, approximately, right? The events. And I thought that was interesting because, it doesn't explain what BBY means. It could have said 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, but it assumes that the hardcore Star Wars fans are going to be watching this. And and they're going to, or somebody who's not is going to go say, what is this? And somebody in the room is going to say, oh, come on, BBY. That's the calendar. That's how they tell in Star Wars lore. So I kind of thought, okay, this is an invitation for like hardcore fans, or a little more hardcore fans. And I thought that was kind of a neat.
I think it definitely is. I think the writers definitely were planning on having people who are already familiar with this universe tuning in, because even if you're well versed in that universe, there are a lot of planets, a lot of location changes, and at the very beginning, sometimes it was a little hard to keep track, particularly because you have 2 different parallel storylines going on.
I had the same issue with Rogue One. When I saw Rogue One in the theaters, I was slightly confused. At the beginning, I was like, wait a minute, which planet are we on? But then, of course, multiple rewatchings, I know exactly what's going on now. But yeah, the first time through, I was like, wait a minute, okay, it's, and of course, in the Star Wars universe, there's only one biome for each planet. So I was like, okay, it's raining here, so it must be this planet. This planet's basically a desert. It's very arid. Jeddah was very arid. So
I think that's all. Sorry about that noise. I think that's all popular science fiction. Trek's the same way. One planet, like you said, one biome. It's the same everywhere, all over the place. People are the same.
Yeah. It's
no
probably
variability.
Storytelling device to keep the audience like on track too.
Yeah, it would be too much if I had to know about, well, there's different countries on this planet and different races in this planet. Yeah, it's too much.
Well, they did a little bit of it, but in episode 1, where they had like the 2 sentient races, on the same planet. But yeah, but we don't want to talk about the prequels. All right, so no offense, but it sucked. So this is Star Wars without lightsabers.
Yeah, Star Wars without Jedi, entirely. That's correct, right? Not a single Jedi in this series.
So I said lightsabers because I think I'm cheating, because I think there are actually 2 lightsaber-like things that happen, and it's towards the end of it's in the last episode. So Luthen's ship has like this special weapon that looks like 2 lightsabers come out, and he like and like takes out like 2 TIE fighters. Pretty slick.
Yeah, that was one of the good action sequences. So I thought this show it's got a real slow burn to start.
No kidding.
Not a lot of action takes place over the first couple of episodes. Then there's an episode with a really good action sequence, probably the best action sequence of the entire series, which is not a good thing because you don't want to have your best adrenaline rush early on. And I think that's kind of what happened with this show. There was a lot of buildup for the final episode that didn't really pay off.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not a huge problem, but I think it's just it's a built-in audience expectation that when you build up to the final episode where events finally converge,
Yeah.
It felt like it'd be bigger than it actually turned out to be.
I had a similar critique. So like at the very beginning, you know, when we get the scene where the bully security guards, nobody likes a bully, right? So especially like, you know, Star Wars geeks, we tend not to like bullies. And so when you have these two bullies and they jump Andor, basically, you try to extort him, and he like headbutts the guy and doesn't realize that he kills him, but then, you know, he's dead. And then he decides, well, I mean, in for a penny, in for a pound. And he puts the gun at the guy's head, cold-bloodedly murders him as he's on his knees. I thought, this is the Star Wars that I've been looking for, right? This is like action, hard characters. The good guy is gray, you know, like there's depth, there's complexity, you know. He does, you know, Cassian's character does the same thing in Rogue One, right? He kills one of his own allies to prevent him from informing or being captured, you know, and possibly informing the Imperials about the transaction that they just made. So, you know, it's all in keeping with what we know about Andor, even though this is events that precede those. But we know that he's not afraid to kill if he has to. And, you know,
Yeah,
it's
so
interesting.
To that point, darker, grittier Star Wars. It seems like any movie, book series, TV series, intellectual property doesn't start out dark and gritty, but if it's been around long enough and enough stories have been told, fans are constantly clamoring for darker, grittier. And Andor gives you that, but it doesn't feel like Star Wars to me because that's not what Star Wars is. Even in the original trilogy, you know, Han Solo is supposed to be this pirate who doesn't care. He's nothing like that. He's a good guy, you know. He's
a pirate with a heart of gold.
Pirate with the heart of gold. Yeah, he's not hard. He of course he shot first and he killed Greedo, but you know, it was kill or be killed in that situation, right? But
That's
outside
right.
of that, he has no other cold characteristics or actions for the rest of the trilogy, and really none of the other characters do either. So it's very family friendly in that regard. And you know, as you point out, Andor is much more willing to. It's willing to do a number of things. It's willing to give you all sorts of tiny details about this fictional universe, to the point where it's like it's more detail than I wanted.
It's a lot. There are a lot of characters, and it's hard to keep track of. I printed out a list just to like refer to, because we don't even get a lot of them, like their last names or anything. But this is just like the first page of that, and it's a lot. And it's like, you know, that's a lot of characters to keep track of over 12 episodes.
So the characters that Andor interacts with, that's fine. I mean, there's only a few that are important to the plot. But where I thought the parallel plot tended to bog down was in the machinations of Mon Mothma. And you know, what is she doing to fund the rebellion? It did nothing for me.
No,
I was very interested in the Stellan Skarsgård character, because he's a great actor. I would watch him in anything. It's just he has that gravelly voice. When he delivers a line, you want to listen to it because it sounds and feels weighty no matter what it is.
I'm a coward. I'm the one who says we'll die with nothing.
You know, kind of like a Gene Hackman character. He could be in any movie and you'd watch it.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that part of the political plot, but the Mon Mothma stuff just bored me to death. I hate to say it. You know, it was just boring.
Yeah, I always wanted to see more of what her character was, but she's just in there because of Rogue One. And then, like you said, this better pay off like down the road because they've set up so much. It's gonna, I mean, and you're right. I think it could have been an editor would have done a great job, like taking that out.
But not only that, but I mean, I'm a fairly smart guy, but I got to tell you, there when you were getting towards the last 3 episodes or so, and it's clear that she's making some kind of a bridal deal with her daughter because of
she's selling her daughter.
the fix that she's gotten in.
Mhm.
All the discussions prior to that, I'm like, what's going on? What's happening?
Yeah.
I figured it all out later, but there was a long period of boredom and confusion over.
Yeah.
what's going
I don't
on.
care that your teenage daughter doesn't like you. Like
Right.
that's every teenage or ever. Like
Yeah.
at some point, right? That's just being a teenager. That's not Star Wars. That's boring. I want to see lasers. I want to see fights. I want to see, you know what I mean? I want to see action. I want to see the rebellion, like
Right. So if you thought the political machinations that were involved in the cursed prequels could be boring,
Yeah.
it wasn't quite that bad, but same level of stuff. So
yeah.
I guess there are people, and I certainly read plenty of comments where there are people like, yeah, this is the detail I'm looking for. So there's a certain part of the fan base that want that.
Yeah, well, we're back to the gravelly voice thing for a second. The scene where Luthen and Saw Gerrera talk about 2 great actors, obviously, like Forrest Whitaker. I mean, did he win the Academy Award for playing Idi Amin? Or he was certainly nominated that year. But like, just real, and then and of course their voices. If you could watch that scene, or you could listen to that scene, and still like get the emotional impact out of it.
So here's what I like about bringing in an actor like him is that here's an actor who is he's a big name. He's got lots of gravitas. And he's older. There aren't a lot of old characters in Star Wars. It's about young people.
Right.
Unless there's a elder mentor,
Right.
figure from the hero's journey.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
And he doesn't play that. He's just he's the wise guy who's had enough and is tired of taking crap from the Empire, and he's going to do something about it.
I am the only one with clarity of purpose.
But it's unusual for Star Wars to bring in an actor of that caliber, an older actor of that caliber.
Yeah, and he does have that Star Wars pedigree. Of course, he was in Rogue One as well.